So who do we have with us today? So we have Ross here from the Mold Guy, and they are certified mold professionals. So they do, you're doing a bunch of testing. What is it that your company offers, Ross?
We do mold inspections, we do remediation, we do asbestos testing, indoor air quality testing.
So like kind of all the stuff to make sure that when you're buying a house, even if you can't see it, that, you know, everything is good to go, right? Okay, love that. And just before we get started, I wanted to give everyone an introduction to mold. I mean, we all know a moldy loaf of bread, but mold in the house can be a little bit different, right? So what causes mold, Ross, and why is this a bad thing?
Well, I think somewhere in there we go. Mold is good, but not in the home. So mold's job is to send everything dead organic back to Mother Nature. Otherwise, it'd be armpit deep in debris.
Right.
When it's growing in the house, well, the house is also organic matter, so the house is edible.
Which isn't good, right?
Right, which isn't good. Yeah, it raises the mold spore count in the house, and then as a result, we get sick.
Right. Okay. So there's mold. So I know you mentioned we've had you on talking to our team before. So mold isn't something that's, you know, rare in certain circumstances. There's always mold everywhere, right? Even if we can't see it.
Yeah, we're breathing it right now. It's all around us. Thousands of mold spores.
And we don't have to be concerned about this, because I feel like that immediately makes you want to put on a respirator.
No. In the summertime, the mold spore count outside goes up someplace around, could be as high as 10,000, 50,000. But inside usually remains around 1,000 or under. In the wintertime, that goes down to almost zero, 400, zero, somewhere in that range. The difference is our bodies in the wintertime, our sinuses are dry. So we're more susceptible. In the summertime, we have wet sinuses, so we filter out more.
Okay, but then it's also in the summertime when things are damp that, you know, we're going to see more mold growth in the house, right?
Well, get more mold growth in the summer.
Really?
I'm sorry, the winter. Yeah.
Even though it's drier.
Yeah.
And what causes that?
Differential temperature, condensation.
So all the temperatures when we have our houses nice and toasty warm and it's freezing cold outside.
Yep. Take a thermal camera, you'll see all the corners are cold, and your windows are cold, and all that hot, humid air in the house just condensates. And
Okay, so I know you've mentioned before that mold is all around us. Even when mold starts growing, we can't see it right away.
that's correct. Has to grow about 100 times its size before you can see with a human eye.
But it would be detectable using like some of the tools that you guys have and things like, even if it's starting to grow, but it's not visible.
No, well, people do an indoor air quality test if they start feeling different.
Okay.
And sometimes it finds a lot of mold. Sometimes you just ruled out mold.
Which is, you know, it's important even if you're just ruling it out, right?
Yeah. But there's no tools to find it if it can't be seen yet.
Okay. So it's only when it's starting to grow enough, when it's starting to be visible.
It'll be in the air, but you can't visibly see it, and there's no tools to see it.
And again, that's because, you know, there's always mold around us. So it's the tools are detecting it when it's growing enough to start being a problem.
Yeah, when it becomes elevated. Yeah.
Got it. So I know you've mentioned the mold equation. So mold plus food plus spores equals growth.
Yep.
So they have to have something to feed on. You have the spores in the air, and other than that, it's not going to grow.
Mold floats around almost indefinitely, just floats. And when it finds something wet, a wet wall, it will just, as it floats, instead of bouncing, it just sticks. If it stays wet long enough and it's a food source, it'll start to grow.
Got it. Okay.
It's the same as, we'll get to that later. Carry on. I could go on and on and on. So,
but that's what
you gotta
right?
keep
Like
me down the channel.
we know a little bit about mold, but you guys see it so much more than we do, right, in your business.
Yeah.
So just kind of a few facts before we're getting started here. So if you walk into a home and it has that musty smell, right? So when we're going in and we're first showing a house with clients, we're kind of using our senses. Is that always mold?
No. Well, it could be water intrusion, like when your foundation is leaking. Concrete, when it gets wet and dries, gives off the same earthy, musty odor. Dirt, same thing. It could just mean that somewhere in the house there's water intrusion.
Okay.
Or a leak. onto a basement floor or something like that.
And if it's just raw concrete, can mold grow on that?
No, nothing is mold proof, it's mold resistant. So you can get mold growing on the dirt on the concrete, but not on the concrete.
Okay.
That's easily cleanable.
So again, if we're getting that musty smell and maybe it's coming from an unfinished basement, you have the raw concrete walls, doesn't always mean that there's mold in there, but it's something to start paying attention. There's an indication there could be something wrong and we need to do a little more digging.
All right.
Okay. And I know there's a few different types of mold. Can I just guess when I look at them? Like black mold's always bad, right?
No, that's what the media terms it as toxic black mold, but actually toxic black mold is a slime. It's a water mold. It starts off like a green gray slime, and when it dries out around the edges, that's when it goes airborne. That's generally the toxic one. And the toxic ones are rarely found in air tests because they're heavier.
Okay.
It's a heavy mold, and it's larger than what's generally floating around us, so it has a tendency to settle. So when you find it in an air test, you know you have a problem.
Okay, so if you're finding that toxic mold in an air test, you've
Yeah.
got a lot of toxic mold.
Yeah, but no, it can grow, pick a color in the room and the mold will grow that color.
All the colors of the rainbow. So it's depending, like, so a mold could be dangerous, or it could just be enough that, you know, it's having an allergic response, but it's not necessarily as harmful as some of the other types.
Right. It will become harmful. Even the allergenic ones over a long period of time. I've been doing this 16 years. I'm allergic to mold now.
Right, well, because I guess you're exposed to it so much.
So if I go into a moldy home, I'm gonna be sick all week.
Really?
Yeah.
And what kind of symptoms would that cause?
Mostly like flu-like symptoms.
Okay.
I'll just,
So that could be common, you know, maybe you're in a house and you're having those kinds of reactions. That could also be another indication that, you know, something may be off and needing some further digging.
Right.
Okay. And you were mentioning earlier about wintertime, everything growing. That's also the low insulation, right?
yes. It particularly affects attics.
Okay.
So if you have low insulation in your attic, you get a lot of heat going up into your attic and it'll condensate all over the roof sheathing, and that's why you get a lot of attic mold.
Okay. And that's, you know, probably a little more common.
It is very common. Yeah,
Okay.
it's good for business.
Well, it keeps you employed for sure,
Yep.
right? And there's remedies to this, right? It doesn't mean if you
That's-
find mold in the attic that we're just tearing down the whole house.
That's right.
Okay.
The houses weren't built with, you know, having attic mold in mind. Is, you know, you keep the proper ventilation, you keep the proper insulation, keep critters out of your house, and it should be fine.
Yeah. And if not, we call him the mold guy.
That's right.
So most common areas, bathrooms, attics, kitchens, like anywhere that you're seeing that humidity or a temperature differential.
Anywhere
right?
there's water,
Okay.
you know, the basement eventually becomes a catch-all. I tell people there's two kinds of basements. Those have been wet, those are about to get wet. Just you have a whole house of plumbing above you, just waiting to fail. Everything
Right.
that happens bad outside ends up in the basement.
Right, grading, all of those things, that all kind of impacts it along.
Yep, choose your finishes accordingly.
Right, so again, you mentioned that raw concrete, it's not going to grow mold, so depending, certain areas you may want to leave raw, or then again, make sure you're doing it properly, right? You're
Right.
not
Right.
hiring somebody for $20 online to finish your whole basement.
That's right.
Right, okay, got it. And we can clean some of this up ourselves. I
Yes.
don't mean to put you out of business,
No,
but
go ahead. put
you
me in
know.
business.
but if it's something small and I'm looking in my house and there's just a small little area of mold, I don't have to panic and like call in the remediation team.
10 square feet.
Okay,
So let's say you see mold growing on something, clean it. If it comes back, you know you have a problem. But a small area, clean it before it becomes a big problem. Like, I go into people's bathrooms and the whole ceiling is black. That could have been avoided
if they cleaned
if they
it.
just
when
cleaned it when they saw it and then know, okay, something's wrong. You know, the paint is probably wrong type of paint or it's expired. Like I gotta do something about it.
Expired?
Yeah, it lasts for about 5 years.
Okay, so you'd have to, even if it's the proper paint for your bathroom, you want to make sure that you're updating it.
Right.
Hmm.
So bathroom paint has a mold and mildew resistant aspect to it. So does the caulking. And eventually that mold and mildew resistant aspect goes away. And the funny thing is that once you see it and you clean it, it comes back with a vengeance. Because now you've wiped away most of that mold and mildew resistant aspect of it, and it grows and grows, and keep wiping it, and so you're not going to win the battle.
Okay, so it would be if I saw mold, let's say on the ceiling of my bathroom, I'm cleaning it first. What am I cleaning it with? Bleach?
Yeah, good strong household cleaner.
Okay.
Not everybody likes bleach, ammonia. I hate Windex has ammonia in it. Some people like hydrogen peroxide. Whatever your killer choices.
Are we talking about only wet areas like bathrooms, toilets, paint, or
Wherever you see it.
so the paint is still the same, right? Whether you do use it in the bathroom or in the bedroom.
You could, if you typically you wouldn't use mold and mildew resistant paint in the bedroom,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of old houses out there with no insulation.
Mhm.
So, just a little bit of humidity in the house will cause condensation in corners and that. And if it becomes a problem, you can paint it with a mold and mildew resistant paint.
Mhm.
You're gonna have other problems doing that, but yes, it's still gonna be condensating. It's just gonna now drip onto the floor. You gotta solve your humidity problem.
But that could be a good temporary. So you're,
Yeah.
again, you're cleaning it up, you're redoing the paint. If my bathroom was painted 10 years ago, I have mold issues. Once I clean it, doing just a recoat of the mold and mildew resistant?
Yep.
Okay, and that's not gonna like trap it in the ceiling or
Nope.
anything?
Doesn't work that way.
Okay. That's why we're bringing you in. And my question, of course, is in bathrooms, the place that, we always get mold, bathroom caulking. So again, less than 10 square feet, but sometimes caulking gets pretty intense with that mold.
Yeah.
I can
it
still do
does.
that myself.
Did you see that before and after picture on my website? That black bathroom?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's all cleanable. So one of the problems, having mold on caulking when you're selling a house, at some point, the bank is going to have an appraiser come. And when the appraiser looks at that caulking and it has a little bit of black spotting, he'll call out mold. At that point, you're not going to get a mortgage for that house.
Because now it has the dreaded M word.
Right,
We've
mold.
marked down that there's
Right.
mold in the house.
It's scrape it off, re-caulk it, but at that point, the bank now needs a certified letter that there's no mold in the house.
Okay.
So
So if we were preparing a house for sale, that could be part of the, the tidy, you're getting everything ready, you're decluttering, just,
you would
a
do
nice
that
little
long
weekend
before
project.
the appraiser comes in, yeah.
Okay, so, and just easy enough, you can just get that at the hardware stores, you're just scraping it off, drying everything and then just recaulking.
Same as the grout. You want to make sure the grout is all clean.
Okay. And again, just with like a regular cleaner, nothing,
Yeah.
know,
just a regular
high-powered or
cleaner,
industrial.
Use your husband's toothbrush, just get in there, scrub all over.
I guess depending on how nice he's been to you,
That's
right?
right,
So, okay. All right, so we're gonna go through some examples. Your team was kind enough to send me over some examples of remediations you've done. So we're gonna go through and just see kind of what you guys see when you're out there and out in the field. So this was a bathroom that you had, gone in to look at, and I can see mold in here, but it doesn't look, I guess, it's
Horrible.
sealable, right? Like this doesn't look that bad. I can see it. I know there's mold in there, right? I'm seeing it around kind of the windows there, but it doesn't look that bad.
That's right.
And then you also sent me a photo of when you tore out that wall of the bathroom.
So the a lot of the water is coming through the window. Because
Okay,
a shower in a shower with a window is a horrible idea. All the water just pools there and eventually it's going to go through the wall.
okay. Well, because
So-
that's common, right? Like a lot of older houses.
You really
it's-
gotta-
You have that light in your shower.
Yeah, what you should do is put another curtain rod at the wall with a clear shower curtain, like maybe about this high, just covering the window.
Okay,
Have a shower, open it up. So in this case, you can't really see the mold behind the wall. What you can do is if you knock on the tile, they shouldn't knock back.
that's the mold knocking back at
Yeah.
you?
That's just, it shows you they're not attached anymore.
Okay, so if I'm knocking on it and I'm hearing
Yeah,
that
just-
kind of echo
this is-
back.
That's solid. But then you'll get like, I don't know, you'll have a different sound. Well,
Okay,
uh-oh, there's a problem.
All right, so that's something that we can like, or again, if you're seeing kind of the window in the shower, especially if you're seeing that mold growth on there, it could indicate that there's a bigger problem.
You'll see that whether the window's in good repair or not.
Okay. So could be a problem in future, but you're just kind of looking at those windows, looking at all of that. We're giving a little hello to see if there's any mold hiding in the wall there. Because then when you tore off that bathroom wall,
Ooh,
That's right.
that's a lot of mold.
So what you're looking at is the vapor barrier.
Okay,
Sheet of plastic before the insulation,
Yeah.
and the water just came down between the drywall and that vapor barrier. That's the mold stuck to the. No, it doesn't grow on that plastic. This is just, part of the paper that you see here from the back of the drywall stuck.
okay. Because again, it's organic, right? Plastic, not organic, it's not gonna grow on the plastic, but it's gonna grow on the backside.
And the tile is on drywall.
Right, okay. So for us, what are we learning from this? So we're having a look at this kind of ahead of time. I was seeing a problem like that, like if I'm an agent, I go into this house and the bathroom looks like that. That looks like it could be because it's in the shower, there might be a bigger problem than just that 10 square feet. Because when I was looking at it, it looked like we could just clean this up.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah,
Now, would that show up on an air quality test?
probably not.
Why?
It's trapped behind the wall.
Okay. So even though it's that bad, because it's trapped in the wall, it wouldn't necessarily show up.
Yeah, mold can't come through a solid object
Okay,
unless you give it away to come out.
okay. But because we're seeing it somewhere, you mentioned that, water is causing mold growth because it's in the shower that we're seeing the starting. That could indicate that, maybe it's a little bigger than what we're just seeing.
Yep.
Okay, because there's that active water source.
Right.
Okay, so what did you guys have to do to fix it?
Well,
That's a big list there.
yeah, we have to remove. Well, we would start at that window and then work out. And we stop when we get a few feet of clean vapor barrier, clean drywall.
Okay.
We remove all materials in the washroom. We HEPA vacuum everything, disinfect with antimicrobial solution. That antimicrobial solution is the Benefect, by the way.
Okay, got it. So I guess I'm putting on extra information for you guys there. So that's a specific cleaner that you guys are using to, stop the mold, but you have to get away those organic surfaces first. That's why you had to remove all the materials.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And again, this is why you're hiring the pros when it gets really big. So the air scrubber there under negative containment. That sounds really serious. What does that mean?
Question?
How much could it cost? How much did it cost to do all this work just for the shower, bathroom?
That was probably somewhere $2,000, $2,500.
So it's
Okay.
not that bad.
No, so dealable, but you had to run like containment procedures. So it's not
Yeah.
like, what's important about that? Like, so why can't I just rip it out and, scrub it myself?
Because you'll send those mold spores through the rest of the house.
Because there's so many of them,
That's
because
right.
the mold is so big,
The
then,
mold spores will actually cling to your clothing and you'll walk through the house with it on your clothing.
Sorry.
so then our $2,000 remediation is now you're getting.
I use the word cling, but actually they just get kind of trapped.
It's just
They
very
don't have,
visible.
they're not.
Right, so, and we have some after shots here, so you guys ended up doing the whole bathroom.
That's right.
Wow.
So you started at the shower, but then as you were removing the rest of the walls.
Yeah.
There was just more
It
and
just
more.
went. And you know what that's called? What you see there? That type of wall board?
Which one?
Plaster and the,
It's lath and plaster.
or lath and plaster.
And is that good, bad?
It's old school.
Mhm.
It was it's becoming a lost art. So the strips of wood are lath and they're real old school cedar. So it takes forever to grow mold on those. And then it's left with a gap and then they put the plaster on and the plaster just kind of oozes between the gap and that's what sticks it on. And then they smooth it out like it looks like drywall, but it's a lost art now. I don't know if anybody still does that.
So that would have helped somewhat of the mold growth that it didn't keep growing on that, right? And that we
Well,
didn't
mold
have-
doesn't grow in plaster.
Well, so you had to rip out the drywall, but because that was behind it,
Yeah.
that probably saved a little bit of the rest of the house.
Yeah.
Okay, question.
Yeah, we have a question from the audience.
Yes, please.
What were the visible clues that there was black mold in the wall?
First off, don't get caught up in black. Okay, it's
Okay.
just mold.
Any mold could be
Right.
bad.
First off, it's the disrepair of the window sill. And then once you go in and you start tapping around and realize nothing's attached, you know you have water damage. And you just follow the damage.
So you wouldn't have known necessarily that the whole bathroom was contaminated,
No.
but you could tell just from looking at the shower because the window itself was in a bit of disrepair that, you know, there is active mold. It's obviously been growing for a little bit.
Yep.
The tiles are knocking back, the mold is saying hello when we're knocking
And
and,
this may have been a case where the client said, just remove it all.
okay.
Yeah.
Just to be safe, right? Again, I think especially if we have families at home, anyone, you know, immune compromised, little kids, you want to just, let's just do it right and make sure that we're not calling you back to rip out more of the house.
Yeah, the other thing about plaster could contain asbestos.
Right, so depending on the age of the house, you want to make sure that's also safe as well.
Yeah.
And do you guys, you test for that? Would we need to
Yeah,
bring
we
in
test
another?
it. We would just take a piece off, put it in a bag, send it off to the lab, have it tested.
Okay, so even when you guys are in remediating, we're not worried about, okay, you have to stop your whole job and we hire another company because there's potential asbestos. You guys can
We
do
didn't
that as
touch it.
well.
And
Okay.
as long as you leave it alone, it's fine.
Got it. But that's also helpful, right? I think everyone hears asbestos and goes,
Yeah.
so it's nice to know if you guys are in, you're suspecting that, it's not that we have to then find another company. We can just go, hey, Russ,
Yeah.
our best friend here, can
Yeah.
you guys test for this as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
Ross, and how long does it take to get the results? Oh,
2 days.
2 days.
2 days for asbestos, okay, which is nice and quick, right?
Hmm.
And we always hope for that negative test. Okay, so we had another bathroom you sent over, and this one was a little different. Because to me, this looked a little worse,
Mhm.
but it wasn't as scary. So this is what you talked about earlier. That's
Yeah.
that, you know, the paint's probably expired or something's going on the ceiling.
Yeah.
I would see this and go, oh my gosh, there's so much wrong with this. Look at all this mold.
I had so many worse pictures than this, but this is the one they ended up with.
But this actually was less remediation than the other one.
Yeah, this is just disinfecting, maybe fixing up some of the paint damage and just giving it a quick coat of mold and mildew resistant paint.
Okay,
So how do you figure out if it's dangerous or not being the specialist like you, for example?
This,
so how would I know that this is just on the surface and this isn't all like as scary as the first one where it was in the walls?
because this is probably above there. If it was dripping from above, you would get a circular pattern where it had been dripping. You know, like I don't know if you've ever had a leak in the ceiling and it turns
Yeah.
yellow.
Yeah.
That's just a chemical leaching out of the drywall.
Mhm.
And generally, if there's no mold on this side, there's no mold on the other side either. Clean and paint it once you fix the leak.
Mhm.
So these are spots everywhere.
But because we're
in
not
the
seeing a leak, like if this was in the shower itself, we know there's kind of active water dripping versus we're not seeing the standing on the ceiling,
It's
so,
just not using the bathroom fan long enough
Mhm.
okay.
or having a bad bathroom. Like this fan is not the largest fan.
Mhm.
It's probably a contractor grade.
Okay,
It should run for at least an hour,
an hour,
like
Like-
during a shower and then just like put on a 60-minute timer. Not a 30 because you won't push it twice. 60 minutes, get your shower.
you know us so well, Ross, right?
Yeah,
Human nature. Or the old houses, they didn't even have those ventilation, because you have a window, right? We showed
Yeah.
before, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
that's a whole nother conversation. Building science, yeah.
Right, and what was code and not code.
If you invite me back for that one, I can go on for
Yeah.
hours about that.
So from what we're learning, we're looking for that bathroom fan. How strong is it? Like if you turn it on and my old fan grumbled and groaned and
What you do
sounded
is
like a jet engine.
you turn the
so-
fan on, you close the door, just leave it cracked a little bit. Put your hand under the top, get it wet and just feel the air coming in. You should have a good rush of air coming in.
Okay.
Mm.
And if you don't have that, it might mean that the fan is undersized for the bathroom.
Yeah.
Of course, as we had the question there, if you see a bathroom and it has a shower and it doesn't have a fan, that's something you want to build in and you'd be looking at adding for sure, just to stop that mold growth.
It's helpful.
Okay,
Or just keep the bathroom clean and properly painted and caulked.
Okay, so because we weren't seeing the staining on the ceiling, there's no like active, leak that we could see. This may not be as serious as the one we looked at previous.
We get called in to do these because it's probably a property management company
Okay,
and, they can't tell their tenants to clean it up themselves, so
okay,
we get called in to do those. But that is something that the average homeowner could do on the weekend.
okay. So again, because it's under that 10 square feet, we're just cleaning it off, we're repainting. That could also be maybe old paint that's expired, doesn't have that mold and mildew resistant.
Yep.
So you did some of the same things in terms of, disinfecting all of that, but you didn't have to demo this, right?
Thank God.
I would think my
The
husband
problem-
loves demo. He loves to knock a hammer
Yeah,
through walls.
there's. Some people just go in and demo the ceiling. They don't find anything, but they demo the ceiling and put up a new ceiling. And what a waste of money and time.
Okay,
Yeah, we have to vacuum the ceiling first before we do it, just to get any mold spores off. And then we disinfect it.
okay. Question.
Do you still wear the same cloth that you were in the first case, or it's if you're in your normal kind of?
Just your normal clothes. It depends on what you're spraying, how you feel about it getting onto your clothes. If you wear a mask.
And afterwards, if I was doing that myself in my own home, I'm gonna strip off my clothes and wash them right away, right? Not just
Yeah.
go down,
You
sit on the
wouldn't want to
couch.
do it if you have any health concerns or if you're pregnant, you may want to. Let somebody else do it, handyman, husband. Kids.
Right? I feel like I did a lot of stuff as a kid because mom didn't want to do the chores, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and for this one, this is what it looked like afterwards. So we're not missing all of the walls. You're not missing everything. You just vacuumed, washed, and repainted.
Yep.
I like that. That's an easier one.
It is.
So there's, again, even though it's in a bathroom, there's two really different types of situations that you're gonna find.
Yeah. They still need to paint. Like
Yes.
obviously there, you see there's still some marks on the walls they should paint, but we just go there to get rid of the mold and make the ceiling look pretty.
Okay, so marks don't necessarily mean like you're gonna certify that it's mold free.
Oh, yeah.
It just might not be as pretty as it needs to be if
That's
they're listing or moving.
We're not
it.
painters.
Right.
Suggesting talking to our clients, should we mention to them when you go to the store, Home Depot, somewhere else, ask for the specific paint for the bathroom, because
Yeah.
it would be different from the regular one,
Right.
right?
The nickname is KBL,
Okay,
kitchens, bathrooms, laundry rooms.
oh.
Okay, and that's the specific paint you're using anywhere that has the moisture, right? Okay.
KBLC.
The kids at Home Depot are not gonna know KBL. If you go to Benjamin Moore or some, like one of those places, yeah, they'll.
And it says it on the paint can, right? Like it'll say it's meant for
Sometimes-
kitchens or bathrooms.
Sometimes you really have to search for it.
Okay,
So when I go to Benjamin Moore and pick up a can, I'm like, it's gotta say it on here somewhere, it's bathroom paint.
okay. But it's gonna specify and let you know this is the high moisture areas. All right, speaking of kitchens. This was another one that I loved because when I'm first looking at the pictures here. I mean, this looks great. You got
Yeah,
a
that's
nice
good.
house, like, I'm not seeing any problems. I'm not seeing like the bathroom from the first one where there's obvious mold around the windows or anything. This didn't look too bad to me. But it was a little bad. So what was happening with this one? It was the fridge was leaking?
The fridge was leaking and so was the window. So this is inside the cabinets.
Ew.
So how would we, so this is what we're looking at, everybody, so you guys can't see this at home. Everyone who's in here with us is making shocked faces, right? Because it doesn't look that bad. When I'm looking at this,
Yeah,
this looks like a beautiful kitchen. It's not always what you can immediately see. That's more than just a tiny little bit of mold in there.
that's right.
Okay, so when we're looking at this, what can we learn as realtors? So how would I know going in there that there could be a potential problem?
If you open up the cabinet and you see staining, like water staining on the back, a really good chance there's mold on the other side.
Okay,
Because if you have any kind of water damage in the basement, the likeliest place that you're going to find mold is between the baseboard and the drywall, because the layers stay wetter longer.
because it's trapped against
Right.
there. Okay.
And mold is built into the baseboards, it's built into the drywall, add water and it grows. Why? Because mold's everywhere. So unless you build something in a vacuum, it gets built into everything that we have. And then you add water and voila. So the back of the kitchen cabinet is a layer, and then behind that you have another space that doesn't dry out in a timely fashion. And it needs to be dried within 24, I would say 24 hours.
Okay.
And
So
it
if something
stays-
gets wet temporarily, that's fine, but it's when it stays wet longer that you're gonna see that explosion of growth.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily have to rip out the entire kitchen. Sometimes if it's a small area, you can take the back of the cabinet out and just clean it. It'll be if it's a local thing. If
Okay,
it's right across, no, you're done.
okay.
Take the kitchen out.
Or, if somebody had mentioned that, hey, the fridge was leaking in the past, that might be an indication that, hey, if you haven't pulled it out in a while, so don't be pulling out appliances on showings, everybody. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But if you're checking in the cupboards, you might be getting that musty smell. Would you be smelling that in the kitchen likely, or?
You might be, I don't know. If you look at the, oh no, the camera's not clean.
So it was more the indication in the cabinets that there was some kind of damage there that we want to investigate further because it could be somewhere else.
They should have noticed inside the cabinets long before they found the fridge.
Right. Okay.
So interesting, because as realtors, you might look under where the pipe is, like the faucet, and
Yep.
look on the bottom, but I've never, ever looked at the back. So thank you.
So that was because it was near a wall that had a window, and it was the window that was kind of
Yeah.
leaking and trickling down. So when we're looking, where's water coming from? So the fridge
Mhm.
obviously had it was by the window there,
Yep.
the cabinets, they were all by the window. So if it's, you just got a nice cabinet in the middle of the room, that's different than something that's against a wall that there could be a water source.
Gravity is a wonderful thing.
Is it though? So for this one, you guys had to demo everything, right? So again, what you guys might be noticing if you're looking at it is the HEPA vacuum, the antimicrobial, washing everything, and the air scrubber. Those are kind of the standard steps you guys are always taking, even like no matter the size of the mold contamination.
When we see something like that, we seal off the kitchen and the entire kitchen becomes our work area. So everything in it after we're done has to be disinfected.
Okay,
All the surfaces, everything.
so before you started ripping out the cabinets and ripping everything out, you would have sealed the doorways,
Yeah.
so then it's not getting in the air and contaminating the rest of the
Right.
house.
We set up negative air. What negative air does, we run an air scrubber or an air mover on a tube out a window,
Mhm.
which sucks the air out of our containment area. And what that does, it brings all the rest of the house air into our containment, but nothing from the containment leaves.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we run air scrubbers, like HEPA air scrubbers in there to keep turning over the air.
Okay,
And then once we're done, we would, so a job like that, we would have left the equipment running for a few days.
okay, so because it's negative, it's pulling all the air out, so any of those like little cracks or anything, anywhere that there might be a tiny little bit of air coming in, it's bringing from the rest of the house in, so none of that mold then escapes and contaminates other areas in the home.
That's right.
But then the kitchen would be disinfected, but I don't have to like scrub down my couches afterwards
No.
because it's been kept safe.
Unless you need to.
I mean, I feel like after
Never
that,
been to your house.
Wait. with mold in my house, I feel like I'm scrubbing everything down in the house afterwards just to be safe. But this one you did a full demo.
And again, like I said, mold just wafts in the air almost indefinitely. So if it lands on something, as you walk by, it unlands, it just goes airborne again. It
Right,
doesn't just sit there. And
yeah, so we're all making that like gross little face there, like, oh gosh. So for this, again, you would have kept going until you stopped seeing mold.
That's right.
So that was a lot bigger. Those cabinets really didn't look like they were a problem. I looked at them and that took a whole wall.
Yeah.
So everything organic, all of the drywall, because mold grows on that.
All we saved from those are the doors, and we can see there.
Yes. Wow. So the whole cabinets, everything had to be thrown out.
Yeah.
That's cha-ching, cha-ching, right?
Yes.
So it's not just the
So worst
remediation
news
cost.
to go home.
Well, because we're paying for the remediation, but then you're also paying, I mean, I'm not leaving my kitchen like that.
Yeah.
So then they would then have to bring in their own contractor afterwards to re-drywall, re-put the cabinets in, all of that stuff.
Yep.
I mean, you guys do a lot, but they're not rebuilding your kitchen for you. They're gonna make sure it's mold free and safe,
That's correct.
and then we're bringing in somebody else.
We leave you with a clean, ugly after picture.
But clean, the operative word, guys, is clean, right? So, all right. Now, this is one of the more common ones, I think. We talked earlier, attic mold. I always think that's where we're gonna to find this. So this is something that you would recommend, you know, poking your head up.
Yep.
And just seeing. I'll be honest, Ross had given our team a little bit of guff when he had done a presentation for us before, because I think more than half of us had never stuck our heads in our attic
That's right.
to even look at that. So for this one,
Have you
this,
since?
yes, I actually have.
You guys believe her?
Well, I have no ceiling right now because we're doing demo, but I have
Okay.
checked in my attic and I sent my husband up for the full check, right? I popped my head up, but somebody else went all the way up and crawled in the corners. So this is, when I'm seeing anything on that roof sheathing, that means mold, right?
It should look like fresh plywood. Or,
Even if it's older house?
well, there's plywood, there's OSB, oriented strand board, which is the current material that a lot of contractors are using,
Mhm.
and old school plank. So it'll look just like strips of plank going across.
Mm.
And those planks are wonderful because they really, again, old school cedar, takes a long time to grow mold on them. So yeah, it should look fresh, new.
Mhm.
This doesn't.
Okay, so even if it doesn't look like, if I see this, okay, there's obviously a problem, but any kind of black, if I'm seeing any discoloration on the attic sheathing, that means there's a potential problem. And like you mentioned, it could be low insulation. This is where you kind of see it in the winter because you're having that big temperature between the cold outside and the warm air inside.
So you see the insulation
Yes,
on that picture
yes,
down,
the bottom left
Yeah.
there. Okay,
you see it, it's got trails in it,
aha,
mice. So what the mice do is they Swiss cheese the insulation. They burrow holes everywhere, which
oh,
allows all the heat to get into the attic.
okay. So that could be, you know, that's part of the symptom that even if you're fixing this, they're, you know, tunneling in your insulation and they're, you know, there's a problem.
And it looks like the insulation goes right to the roof sheathing. It should be pulled back to allow air to come in.
Really, like, I don't want to like block off all the cold air and all of
I
that.
know you want. In the wintertime, that attic should be freezing, same temperatures outside.
Okay,
Would
so
be
you
ideal.
want it moved back from the edge so you have that airflow and it's not all just trapped in there.
Yeah, should be at least baffles or something in there, just to stop the insulation from falling in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the big things that we're learning from this is anything at all. You pop your head in an attic. Yes, we're having our houses inspected. We're bringing in all the proper people. But if we have a look in an attic and you see any kind of discoloration, it doesn't look brand new.
Yeah.
Something's going on that it shouldn't be.
Right, so if the attic sheathing is discolored, if you see a pipe that is supposed to be connected and it's not, that needs to be fixed right away. If you can see trails everywhere, you probably got mice, you want to get rid of those right away.
Because then it would just keep recurring, even if you
Right.
cleaned up the mold. And even if you fix the insulation,
Yep.
you've just renovated their decks, right? They got nice new insulation to tunnel through.
Correct.
Okay. So for this one, believe it or not, you said that the roof sheathing was good. Like I see all that black mold and I'm like, we're tearing off the roof of the house.
Yeah, but it still has structural integrity. If you get too much water, the plywood will start delaminating and you'll see the piece
Okay.
that needs to be replaced.
So even though it didn't look pretty, it wasn't a total lost cause.
That's right.
Okay. And you're mentioning brushing, scrubbing. Can't I just sand that off?
All those nails sticking through. You have to sand, I know, I've heard of companies that actually go up and sand it for 2 weeks around every single nail.
So that's probably going to be a lot more than just calling you guys in to
Yeah.
disinfect and scrub it. Okay,
That's right.
so you want to make sure it's getting scrubbed. Again, this is way more than 10 square feet, guys. If your attic looks like this, please do not do it yourselves.
It's not even the case of 10 square feet. One misstep and you're going through the ceiling.
Right.
Right.
So especially with attics, you want to be safe. So again, if we're looking in an attic, we might pop a head up. We're not going on an adventure through somebody else's attic because again, you want to make sure you're safe and that's what the professionals are for,
Correct.
right? We're not crawling up there and especially if you find mice, that's, you know, in our nice little work garb, that's not always appropriate, right?
That's right.
Okay. And you mentioned that even when you're done, it might not look perfect, but you guys will still certify that it's mold free.
That's right. And next slide.
Okay,
There you go.
that looks a lot better. Obviously, there's still challenges with the insulation, but that could be something the homeowner would bring in a company to bring it all out, redo the insulation, put some mouse traps down.
So what you're left with is the end of the nails tend to rust and that black gets onto the plywood. That's what you're left with, that discoloration there.
Okay.
That bothers a lot of people, but that's all it is.
And would you provide a certification? So let's say I did have problems in my attic, I'm getting ready to list my house. I bring you guys in, we would have a certification that if any buyers for my house had a concern, no, we had this tested and it's now certified mold free. Okay,
Lawyers require it.
okay. So again, then if a buyer is looking at the house, they have concerns because they're seeing those issues on the nails. Nope, we recently have the certificate, it's mold free.
Right.
Okay,
Question.
yes.
So do we have to call your company for the certification if it's found by the inspector? But if inspector finds nothing, do we still have to call to make sure? Okay.
No.
Mhm.
A lot of times the inspector, once we do our work, will take it off the report.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's if we're finding a problem, we're calling you guys in, so then we're clearing it there.
That's right.
Mhm.
And just mentioning attic, guys, that's similar to my attic had vermiculite, which sometimes can have asbestos, right? However, you get the testing, you get it certified, now it's good to go,
Correct.
right? So any hiccups that come up, once you guys have given it the all clear, then we're good.
We live in an old house, eh?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's a joyful house, right? People see surprises in old houses, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is, I saved this one for last because I thought this was, I think it's a cold room, right? It's in the basement, it's all concrete. It should be perfect, right?
Most of you people don't even know what a cold room's for. I wish they'd stop building them.
It's for storing all my clothes, right?
Yeah, of course.
So what should
That's
we,
why you smell musty. Okay.
you're not being invited back, I'm just gonna say that. So what am I storing or not storing in my cold room? What's its purpose?
I would prefer nobody stored anything in there.
And why is that?
A cold room is for hanging meat, preserves, making wine. It's designed to be humid. Probably when they built the house, the rest of the house was waterproof. The cold room wasn't. It's supposed to be humid. The door is supposed to be weather stripped, insulated, but it rarely is.
Okay,
That allows hot air to get in and starts condensating all over everything. If you're gonna store anything in a cold room, plastic containers with lids. And it doesn't always save whatever's in the plastic containers. If there's something in that room that's getting moldy,
okay.
that smell will penetrate through that plastic.
So again, that's where you're gonna get that musty and then it could grow. You could have a plastic container, open it up, and now we're throwing out all of our clothes.
That's right. You can wash your clothes. If the musty odor comes out, great. If not, pitch them.
Okay,
But
Question. So what, once again, those cold rooms are supposed to keep only what? Meat, you said?
hanging meat,
Hanging meat and wine, like bottled wine, right?
Yeah.
And what else?
preserve jars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can use it temporary storage. You know, people put carrots and potatoes and beer cases in there as long as it's temporary,
Mm.
you know, like. Then, but if you leave it in there, it's gonna grow mold.
So you're not supposed to insulate cold rooms. They have to stay like that, right?
There's no effective way to waterproof a cold room. People are starting to spray foam them
Mm.
with a closed cell foam, but. The code is that you can't have open spray foam, it has to be drywalled. So you're back to having a drywalled cold room.
which is organic, which is, everything else that goes with that. Because when I was growing up, our cold room was the stuff that you touched once every 10 years. Right, you shoved it in there. So we don't want anything organic in there. You can throw it in there temporarily, go back to if I'm, making preserves at home, I can store those in there, but we don't want it to just sit there for years.
Back in the day, it was dug out in the side of a hill with a wooden door, and the neighbors all shared it. They put their stuff in there, and that was a cold room.
So this cold room, I'm gonna show you guys the example here. We had some problems in this cold room. So what would have caused that?
That is just the water coming around the sides of the cold room and bringing in dirt, debris. And that's what the mold's growing on.
Okay,
And it, because of the water's coming in there, all the sheathing up top will probably be mold impacted.
okay,
See, all that wood up top is not supposed to be there. It can be all removed.
so what's wrong with wood?
Mold food.
Aha, so even though, so it looks like they had it so they could hang things from the ceiling, I shouldn't be building that into my cold room.
Well, they put them there to form the patio.
Got
So
it,
there's plywood up there, then those 2x4s going across, holding the plywood up. And there's nothing structural about it.
So they shouldn't be even building this shelving there, right?
Right.
If it's wood.
Right.
So it shouldn't be, okay,
No.
okay,
Glass, metal, and plastic.
glass metal, okay.
okay, so no wood shelving in
Glass,
there.
metal.
And this would be something like when we're thinking about what can we learn from this, check out the cold rooms, right? If we're
Yeah.
showing houses, we want to go in and have a look at this.
Yeah.
And specifically, if we're seeing anything organic in there, if you're looking up at the ceiling, you're seeing wood.
If you're looking at the ceiling, it's nice to see a concrete ceiling. I like it when everything's just big white box when you walk in. It's perfect, beautiful, leave it.
Okay,
Don't store anything.
right. So if we're showing a house and we go in and there's a lot of stuff in the cold room, it's hard to see, there's a chance that there could be mold growing on something.
I go into every house I go in, like, do you have a cold room? Yeah, can I see it?
So that's something we definitely should be checking out. And I will say, I see in a lot of new builds, that's actually really common that, we're not making our own wine, but most of them come with cold rooms.
That's right.
So that's something to check out if you're buying a resale house. We're gonna go in there, we're gonna look, is it specifically around the window here or just,
Well, this is an odd one with the window.
okay,
And you can see the negative air machine there.
yes. So that's where you were making
Yeah.
sure this loveliness didn't get into the rest of the house.
Most of them just have a vent,
Okay,
4-inch vent carved in it someplace.
okay, so for us, we're looking around, we're going in, we're checking out anything that's not wood, metal, or plastic, or looks like it's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Would you get that musty, like if you're getting any musty smell in a cold room, does that mean mold or could it just be the concrete?
It could be mold, it could be concrete, all the above. Quite often when you walk into a house and it's musty, and there's nothing else wrong, nothing, rest of the house is perfect, it's the cold room.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could not necessarily, like, even if it's smelling musty, if the cold room you go in, it's empty, it looks fine, that may indicate that there's, it's just the concrete
I would-
taking in the water.
At that point, I would just tell them to bleach the cold room.
Okay,
Just get rid of whatever might be on the walls or get rid of the smell or. And they make, it's called water block paint.
okay,
Zinsser sells water block paint. It's almost like putting on peanut butter when you roll it on.
Water block paint.
Yeah, it's designed to when you get down into a cold room, there's an amazing amount of water pressure coming through the wall. And this paint is designed to stop it. And I think they guarantee it for 5 years.
Even if it's concrete walls?
It's designed for concrete walls.
Oh, no, but I mean, like the water still goes.
Oh,
through
yeah.
the concrete?
Yeah,
walls?
concrete by nature transfers water from one side to the other side.
so I can't just use regular paint in a
No.
cold room?
No, it just grow mold all over it.
Once again, how do
Right.
you call it?
Water block.
Water block.
Yeah.
Paint, and it's.
Zinsser calls it watertight,
Watertight,
TITE.
TITE.
Okay, so this is different than when we were talking about the kitchen and bath paint earlier. This would specifically be for concrete.
It's foundation paint.
Foundation paint, okay, water block paint. And so you could paint that would cut down on any musty smell that might be coming through just from the concrete absorbing the water.
Yep.
And as long as we're not seeing any mold, like those previous pictures, then that could be enough to stop that musty issue.
It works really well, yeah. It works well on block foundations and concrete foundations,
Okay,
but I wouldn't recommend it on brick.
Okay.
Do they sell in specific stores or you can?
All the big box stores, all the paint companies sell a water block
Mhm.
type of paint.
Okay.
okay, so I could go to Home Depot and get that.
Yeah, it takes about 3 coats.
So, and you mentioned it's like peanut butter, so I'm in there for a while using up my arm.
Yeah. And you got a paintbrush first, so all the level grout lines, right?
Oh,
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
that sounds like a job for my husband. Let's be honest on that one. So, but that would kind of prevent, and does that expire like the kitchen and bath
5
paint
years.
does? 5 years, okay.
Yeah.
So then every 5 years you'd want to do like a recoat on it. That would stop any mold coming in, as long as we're not doing long-term storage, putting anything in there we shouldn't be putting in there. And then you're not going to get that scent in the house.
Where you sell your house.
Right? I mean, we know some good realtors, guys. So this is what it looked like when you were done.
Yeah.
So that looks a lot better.
See, this also has a 4-inch vent in there.
Okay, so it had the window and the vent.
Yeah.
And it looks like you guys painted the walls. Or was it just scrubbed? Was it
No,
just
I think it was
really,
just scrubbed.
just really needed to be a bit cleaned on that one? Okay,
Well, maybe not, maybe.
let me see.
I think they encapsulated it.
Okay, and what's the difference between encapsulating and doing this water?
Anything that we don't want to remove, if it's structural, or if the customer does not want it removed, but then we'll just clean it, disinfect it, and then we'll paint it. Just to
Okay.
seal anything in there. Sometimes we'll just paint it to get rid of a dark color that customers don't like and make it more appealing.
For
Okay.
example, like there was a wood beam, right, that they didn't want to move, right? You still
Right.
kept it.
Okay,
Because
but
it's supported.
then the painting, again, we're getting that mold-free certificate and they're
Yep.
safe.
Right.
Okay, so. Yeah, and this one you mentioned you had 2 air scrubbers because that was some pretty,
This was actually 2 cold rooms
okay,
on that particular job. Yeah.
okay. So 2 cold rooms, double the problem.
Yeah, one in the front, one in the back.
Got it. And again, you're spraying, we're disinfecting, you're removing anything that's contaminated that can be removed.
Yep.
And then, we're done and ready to go.
That's right.
Okay. So I feel like we hit so many different points here today. So we're going to go for a few different questions. Don't worry, guys. I want this up on the screen so you can write it down while we're running through questions. So go ahead.
I was going to ask also about mold that you mentioned, even to check in the laundry, the washing machine or something.
Yeah.
Can you speak about that again?
So front load washers, the front ring
Mhm.
has an organic property to it, rubber. So if you leave the door closed and all the debris that gets caught in the lip becomes mold impacted. A lot of people don't know that after a wash, you leave the door open and the soap drawer open. Because nowadays we use those little tabs, we just throw tabs in, we don't open that soap drawer anymore. And you open it up and it's just black and furry and it's just nasty. Yeah, so if somebody invites me to their home and says, we're getting these rashes, we're getting an unexplained this or that, go right to the washing machine.
Mm.
Because
Because
it's contaminating the clothes.
just because you can wash mold, you can kill mold, but just because it's dead, it has the exact same effect on the human body as if it were alive. So, and under a microscope, you can't tell whether a mold is dead or alive.
Okay, so it could still cause those allergic reactions, all of those issues. So,
And you
Suggestion.
can clean that front ring out. You're not gonna get the discoloration out because the roots have grown into the rubber, but you can kill it.
and just the same as you mentioned earlier, like bleach, something with ammonia, household
So
cleaners.
do you just run it, like put it into the wash machine?
No, it doesn't work well that way.
So how do you clean it?
Just get a rag, really wet, bleach, straight bleach, run it around,
Mm.
do it a couple of times. And after that, just keep Lysol wipes or Clorox wipes, something like that. And just once a week, just give it a wipe out inside the ring.
And it's where it's getting trapped on the inside there. So it's not just what you can see, you're kind of pulling back that lip and
That's
you're wiping out the
And
inside.
the same with the soap?
Well, when you pull the soap drawer right out, have a look in the cavity. Then you may have to get in there and clean it out.
So that's our homework, guys. We're checking our attics and we're pulling out our soap drawer because,
That washing machine, if it is left open and has mold, it will fail an air test.
really?
Yeah.
They always say you should keep the washing machine opened.
You do, providing it's clean. If you got a furry washing machine, don't keep the door open.
Clean it first
Yeah.
and all of that, wash everything in your house. Question.
Yeah, we had a question from the audience. How can you get rid of the musty smell once things have been remedied from fabrics, carpets, and leather?
We did a remediation in this house that the people had gone away. And the hot water pipe sprung a leak and steamed the house.
Oh.
So we got everything. And in the basement, they had a man cave. And we found, the guy had died. And we found a gun. And I kept the gun. Turns out it was army practice pistol. Everything about it was real, except the barrel wasn't completely done. And I brought it home, and it has been stripped down and cleaned by kids, me. It still smells like mold. It's been over 10 years now. It's metal. I can't get the musty smell out of it.
So just
So
get
you,
rid of it, right?
you might be stuck. And just clarifying, so when you said you took it home, you had permission to take something out of it.
Oh, yes.
But if I have, let's say I was, I didn't listen to you or I didn't pay attention, I had clothes in that cold room, it smells musty. You mentioned throw it out if it's like a fabric,
That's
like if I'm doing, so just a regular wash in the washing machine after we've cleaned it. Do you have to disinfect? Do I need to have bleach in that wash load? Is just regular detergent fine?
Regular detergent's fine.
Okay,
Just wash it. Like I said, the musty smell comes out, great, you saved it.
if it still smells musty, it's not worth it.
Pitch it.
Could I wash it again, or is it, if
You
it
want to
doesn't
keep
work?
trying, but I don't think you're gonna get the musty out of it.
Okay, so the first time you try, if you do a clean, it doesn't come out.
Yeah.
Okay,
It just gets impregnated. Dude, I don't know, it just can't get it out.
okay. And same with, leathers, things like that. You're using like a leather cleaner on it.
Yeah.
Again, do a full clean, do the smell test. And if it still smells musty, you're out of luck.
That's right.
Oh, that hurts me. Yes. And more questions, guys, throw them in the chat box there. Go ahead.
I had heard in the past that if there's a section of mold in an attic and it's not the entire attic, but it's, let's say, under 5 square feet, that it's not affecting the homeowner because the attic is encapsulated. Is that true?
Even those pictures you saw, the whole attic is moldy, it's not affecting the homeowner. Natural convection starts at the basement, comes to the next level, goes next up through the attic and out through the roof vents. So when you open the attic hatch, you can feel air rushing by you. It's going up. So it's not coming back down unless there's something horribly wrong with the building science of that house. Yeah,
Okay, great.
so it
Thank you.
doesn't become an issue for the homeowner.
But it could spread, right?
Oh, it could spread. That was caused by something's wrong that caused that mold. It's just gonna keep on. Like you can see this much. Chances are it's probably that big, just hasn't grown enough to see it.
Okay. But if it's a small area in the attic, I don't have to like vacate the house. Oh my God, it's an emergency code red.
Nope.
Because it's not affecting me down below because it's all working properly.
That's correct.
Okay, so you have time to get it. You don't have to vacate when you're getting everything fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, another,
Don't store anything in the attic.
I can't store stuff in the attic either.
Oh,
So is there nothing I can store in the attic ever?
no,
Why?
because well, first off, it's going to take up airspace.
Okay,
And you need air up there, enough air that if a little bit of heat gets into the attic in the winter time, it can just dissipate in the cold air because you have enough volume. If you don't have volume, you're going to heat up that volume really easily and everything's going to be moldy.
okay, so because I'm taking it up, it doesn't have the room to, and then it
Right.
condenses and then it's,
Yeah.
and I've lost everything. So no cold rooms, guys, no attic storage. I feel like we
That's
just all
right.
need to, big unfinished
Build a
basement.
bigger
store
garage.
everything. Bigger garage, my husband would love you. We have another question.
Yeah, the person was also asking if white vinegar would help. It was a follow-up question to the remedying of the smell. I'm guessing based on what you were saying, probably
You can-
not.
You can try white vinegar. I don't know if you read some of those line items, disinfecting with Benefect. Benefect is a natural disinfectant. So it's essential oil from oregano, lemon, and thyme. This overwhelming smell is thyme. I can't stand it. It's disgusting. But it takes 10 minutes for it to actually to work. Vinegar is a natural acid. It also takes 10 minutes to work. So you could try washing it in vinegar and see what happens.
But you might want to soak it instead. So if I had,
You
you
can
know,
try that.
my favorite sweater smells musty and I'm
Yeah.
gonna try and save it. Maybe I'm soaking it in a sink with, you know, water and vinegar mixed,
Well, you'd want to use straight vinegar.
straight vinegar. Okay.
I don't know if you wanna, you can, hey, try anything.
Try
It works.
anything, right? But it
Yeah.
could be an option if you really like, you know, it's
Like-
$2 for a big jug of vinegar. So
Yeah.
it's
It's like using bleach, you know, you don't want to dilute it because it's only 5% by volume.
right.
Anything greater will start eating you alive.
Well, isn't that a lovely image, right? We have mold eating us and we have bleach eating
Well,
us,
part
right?
of bleach is lye,
Right.
and that's what all the mobsters use, you know, bury something like pour all the lye over it.
So should I say that the Jennifer Jones team does not support mob activity, you know, covering people with lye to get rid of like competing offers or things
That's
like that,
why
right?
bleach is only 5% by volume. Thank you.
Okay, got it. But there's a few different things you can try. You can always try it a few times, but especially if it's a fabric, something like that, smells musty,
Yeah.
just go shopping, get
Yeah.
something new.
Hey, whatever works.
Okay. Do we have any more questions online? Are you seeing anything else coming in here?
Not right now.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. Thank you so much,
Get up in your
Ross.
attic and have a look.
Yeah, so we're checking our attics. We're checking our washing machines. That was the
Yeah.
price of you coming on today is we're all promising to do this.
And cold rooms.
And cold rooms.
And cold rooms, right? Anything stored in there, Ross is gonna come find you.
That's great.
So thank you so much, guys. We had put up the information there. You can find the mold guys online as well. I will just say, we have used them ourselves for clients and the whole process of getting this, you know, everything ready
We have
today,
a
Ross,
question from the audience.
you and your team have just been awesome today.
Thank you.
So like,
Question,
amazing.
so you cover, what areas do you cover?
Great question.
Oshawa, Barry, Burlington.
What about
Okay.
Georgina?
So anything kind of in that circle there.
Oh, in this circle, so the York region kind of and Durham.
All good. And if we were really concerned, could we just reach out and, you know, hey, do we need a big remediation? My client's asking for
Yeah,
advice.
Send me pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yes, Ross's team is amazing. The
Oh, and-
office team has been great. So we
Like,
can reach out and get info.
I want to give you guys some advice.
Yes.
Follow your home inspector around,
Okay.
okay? Learn about building science and what he's looking at and ask questions.
Right.
He won't let you follow him around, ask for a new home inspector.
Yes. Well, and our home inspector was great. I think he was probably rather annoyed with myself and my husband. We asked so many questions and we refer to that binder all the time. So.
Perfect.
Okay, so it's hire the professionals. There's stuff you can do yourself, but when it gets really bad, you walk in, you're gonna hire the pros. You call the mold guy, guys. All right, thank you so much. It was a pleasure again. Stay tuned, watch online and watch in your emails for our next webinar. And again, find the mold guys online. If you have a mold problem, these are the people to call. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good.
Ross,